Good evening and welcome to Questacon. I'm Graham Durant and I have the pleasure and privilege of being the director of Questacon. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and reflect in these opening remarks that we need a plan. What's the plan? And we've heard a bit about the goals, and sadly we're still in a position where not a lot of people know about them, what they are, what their significance is, even here in Canberra, where you think we'd be pretty tuned in. So from a Questacon perspective, we decided a year ago that the best thing we can do in the first instance is to promote awareness of the SDGs. And I just want to talk to you a little bit by way of introduction about some of the work we're doing. And some of you may have seen our building lit up during the Enlightenment Festival. And this is one of the simple ways where we can draw attention. Another way, of course, is this mural, which is seen by about 500,000 people a year here in Questacon, but many more on social media. And likewise, social media was a great multiplier for the work we did in Enlightenment. And these simple techniques that actually didn't cost us any money, because they were going to project something on the building anyway, are great ways that we can get started. The t-shirts you may have seen people wandering around in out there serving food and drink. These are produced by a local entrepreneur who wanted to help us and help the UN to draw attention. So on UN Day we produced these shirts, and I think the sub-theme tonight is it's all about me. Well, it's all about her, really, and we need our foreign minister really getting behind this. So we were able to give her a shirt for when she's running around the world, literally, and promoting the goals as she goes. Now, I've not seen a photograph of her wearing it yet, but we're on the case. So for Questacon, the Sustainable Development Goals are core business. Who would not put their hand up for quality education? Who would not put their hand for gender equality, clean water and sanitation? And we keep doing these things, and we were doing them before the MDGs or SDGs existed. It's just what people do, and many others have been in that same position. But now with a bit of focus and with the urgency, because we heard 14 years on a video that's a year out of date, so 13 years, and that'll get us to 2030. But some of those people out there that you can just hear, some of the kids in tonight, they will, with a reasonable lifestyle, be able to welcome in the 22nd century. So we're thinking about a future of 2030, but they're going to be alive on planet Earth at the turn of the century. They'll have got a job by 2030, kids by 2050, grandparents by 2070. But as long as they're healthy, they'll get through to 2200. But what about 2300, 2500, the year 3000? We've got people on Australia, lived here sustainably for the best part of 50,000 years. So what's Australia going to be like 50,000 years into the future? And we can't even guarantee civilization will survive this century. So as a species, we're collectively very dumb, although individually and in small groups we might be really very, very smart. So I think we've got to get our act together and step up. So sustainable development, energy, very, very important, and it's why these little things are here, because we'll be selling this model in the shop. This model was developed to replace kerosene lamps in Africa through the UK-based charity Solar Aid, and they've now distributed 1.6 million of these, and each one of them replaces a kerosene lamp, displaces about a ton of carbon. Solar Aid put us in touch with Pollinate, the Australian company who provide these units into India. So we'll be selling these in our shop, and every one sold will be one donated. And it's a way we can do a small bit, but something very practical. Partnerships, very important, and tonight is an example of multi-way partnerships coming together to promote the goals and to have hopefully a good conversation. We in Canberra are blessed with having a very, very active diplomatic community. And there are not many capital cities where you get this level of access to all the different embassies and high commissions and the staff thereof. And it's really important we take those opportunities to play a role on a global stage, which we can do through individual contacts, through institution to institution contacts, through country to country contacts. And what we've learned is kids around the world are the same. If you give them equality of opportunity, then they can grow up together, being well educated and looking forward to the future with hope. But there will never be any sustainability without equality of opportunity. So we have to start with the young people. We've been working in Africa for a while and really delighted that at the moment in Canberra there are 15 emerging science centre leaders from 8 countries learning how to set up science centres or science education programs. And it's something that, when you start doing this, you realise the scale of the problem. And Africa, one continent where there are enormous numbers of people. So events that we would do here in Australia, where you're presenting to a crowd of 50, 60 people, you've got 300-400 people for the same type of presentation. And the scale is something that we as presenters have got to really come to terms with. One of the Questacon programs, the Science Circus, produces each year 16 postgraduate students. Alicia over here, who will be seen shortly, is one of those from the way back. But those graduates, of which there are over 400, have now gone on to work in 58 countries around the world. So another example of how we can spread the word, how we can help in developing countries in particular, either as youth volunteers or paid employment or academic employment. We work as a global community of science centres, and another of the great things that Questacon can do is connect through to science centres in many countries around the world. And the reason we're working in Africa is because it's a developing frontier for science centres. They started probably in the US, developed, spread into Europe, through Asia, and now there are frontier areas in Eastern Europe, Africa, South America, Southeast Asia, where we're working. And so we get to celebrate with the global community every International Day of Science, November the 10th. Future Earth is also a global initiative that's now in Australia. 50,000 researchers around the world working on sustainability, connected through the Future Earth program. Future Earth Australia is the local chapter, and we have been involved since the launch of Future Earth, working firstly on an event for International Youth Day, getting into the schools. So we run National Science Week. The school theme this year is Future Earth. So we're getting the SDGs right into the classroom where they should be. And we're developing this young person's plan for the planet, which is empowering young people, connecting young people and harnessing their passion for the future. And they've got terrific ideas, they're terrific people. They need to be given more opportunities to speak, to express. And we need, if we're going to promote the SDGs, we need to engage youth at every level because it's their future. I am living my future. When I was 15, the same age as these school students we're working with, I had a particular view of the future which would not have brought me to where I am today. But I could not have imagined the things that have happened in my lifetime in terms of technology, globalisation, etc. I did notice in the audience from the United Nations Youth Day, so welcome back. So we've got 20 schools working at the moment, and these are just some of the youngsters who are developing the plan for the planet. You would think that there is a plan to manage the life support systems of the planet. You wouldn't. Homo sapiens, wise man, even wise women. You'd think somebody would say, what's the plan to manage the life support systems on the planet? Who's in charge? You go into a shopping mall as a facilities manager who'll tell you exactly what to do, where to switch on the light, the air conditioning, make sure you've got enough oxygen in there. We should do that for the planet. We're going to do it with the young people, and they're taking hold. So these 15-year-olds, by the time they're 30 and leaders in their fields, they're going to be the solutions generation. And these are some of the people, I'm not going to dwell too long, and just apologise for flicking through, but just to give you a sense of where this is going, next year we will start our international pilots, connecting young people around the world, focused on building a plan for the planet. And year 1, maybe a bit naive, year 2, better. By the time we get to year 10, you know, it'll be as good as any plan anywhere that politicians or experts can come up with. And that's what we're working towards, taking a decadal view of this. So let me stop there and hand over to Lish, the wonderful Lish Fayer from ABC 666 and other things, who's going to be our MC for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham, and it is lovely to be here. And as you were reflecting on the 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which are all around the wall, it's easy to see them as words, and without the actions, they will remain as words. So that's why it's really important that we have all these discussions. But tonight we're just going to bring it back down to one of those goals. Number 3 starts with me. Number 3 is, can anyone remember what it is? Who's closest to it? Yeah, good health and wellbeing. So number 3 starts with me. I guess the speakers tonight that we're going to hear from are verbs. They're the doing words of these SDGs, and I think probably like many of you here tonight, for whatever reason you are here, you are probably here, you're doing it. So you are the verb as well. We all love a good verb, nothing like it. They're coming from different perspectives. So the work they do, both on a home level, on a very local level, literally within the home, around the kitchen table, those discussions at a community level, at an international level, they're remarkable. So I'm really looking forward to listening to what each of them has to say and sort of gelling those together. You'll hear each of their stories now, and throughout the evening, think of questions, because there's going to be a little discussion from each of them now, and then they're going to sit down and we can drill them for all your questions, because we have been drawn here tonight from many different walks of life. Some maybe from an educator's perspective, some with personal experience of what Kate is going to be talking about, others just with a global perspective, with that whole UN perspective. So keep that in mind as you're listening to each of them. I'd like to introduce the first speaker for this evening, Patricia Garcia. Now, Patricia is world-renowned. She's an international hero, a highly respected humanitarian and human rights advocate with experience in project design, delivery, campaigning and fundraising. So she is the top of the tree when it comes to all that stuff. She's worked for over 20 years in war zones, managed coordinated humanitarian relief and development programs to assist refugees, and has been in some of the world's longest running conflicts, Afghanistan, Sudan, Burma. I'd like you now to put your hands together for Patricia Garcia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians. Oh, could you hear me? I have to speak a bit louder. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
I was very loud with this microphone.
Okay, thank you, Lish. Just like to say, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we're meeting this evening, the Ngunnawal people, and to pay my respects to the Ngunnawal people, past, present and future. Just to say that on behalf of United Nations Association of Australia, I'm here this evening to talk a little bit about the Sustainable Development Goals program. And UNAA works to advance the goals of the United Nations in Australia and around the world. And we inform, inspire and engage the Australian community and its leaders about the work that the UN does, why it is important and how they can assist. So with the Sustainable Development Goals, and many of you have seen the video clips. It was in September 2015 that heads of state and governments of all 193 countries signed and committed to advance the Sustainable Development Goals, so that we could also have a vision of what the world would be like by 2030. And these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which I call SDGs, are quantifiable objectives to be able to address the problems which cover the social, economic and environmental dimensions of the world today, of sustainable development as we see it. And many of the issues that the Sustainable Development Goals address are the global issues that all of us around the world are facing, from everything from poverty, extreme poverty, conflicts, mass migration, hunger, sustainable cities, resilient cities, to issues to do with health. And particularly later we'll hear a little bit more about the issue of mental health. For many of you, we might have recalled before the Sustainable Development Goals, we had the Millennium Development Goals from 2000 to 2015. These goals were primarily individual goals which were looking at the sustainable development issues, as we saw, of eradicating poverty, inequality and health. What's happened is now, after 2015, the world, with the current global crisis, realised that it was now important to focus on goals which were incorporating a huge amount of new and existing crises around the world, but also to try to create a plan for how in which we could at least be able to resolve these continuing problems of poverty, inequality, environmental crisis, and to provide an end to the pandemic health diseases, as well as issues such as global terrorism, extreme violent extremism. And so the Sustainable Development Goals in many ways provided what for many of the countries now, because all countries, is a sort of plan that incorporates universal principles. In other words, this is a goal that involves each and every one of us. These goals are not some goals out there for other countries or for other people. They're actually our goals. So the Sustainable Development Goals are my goals, they're your goals, and they're our goals. And the key aspect about this is that it's about people. We need to look behind headlines. We need to look and appreciate complexities, because it's not about states and governments, it's actually about people. And that's what these goals are about. The other important thing is that these goals are about the planet. And for those of us, particularly the younger generation, who these goals are going to be very much, they are going to be the key beneficiaries 2030 and beyond. It's important that they are involved in being able to find the solutions to the problems that they're facing today. So it is about making sure that there's a survival of a planet and a future that we want. These goals are also about peace. With the Millennium Development Goals, most of the goals were focused on development and environment. There wasn't much attention on the issue of peace and security. And what makes the Sustainable Development Goals different is the issue of peace and security, particularly Sustainable Development Goal number 16, which is about promoting peaceful and inclusive societies with access to justice. This is the goal that is focusing a lot on peace, justice, and advancing human rights, which is absolutely fundamental to being able to achieve the other goals. The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said you can't achieve peace unless you also achieve the other goals, the other 15 goals, and vice versa. You can't achieve end of hunger, zero hunger, end of poverty, or good health and well-being unless you also deal with peace. So the difference with the Sustainable Development Goals is that these 17 goals are interrelated. In other words, you can't just work on one goal. They're all interrelated, and you can't be in a position to work with the goals separately, but they have to be approached in a way that we integrate the goals and make the linkages with each of the goals, because they are in a way addressing what we call the 3 pillars: economic transformation, lifting people out of poverty, advancing human rights and social justice, and the third area, environmental protection. And these 3 areas are the underlying 3 pillars that form the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I'd like to just say that some of us have to understand that for a lot of people, these Sustainable Development Goals might sound very complex, but the whole purpose of wanting to work on these Sustainable Development Goals is that the whole idea is that it's a collaborative framework where the fourth issue of partnership is another key theme. None of these 17 goals can be achieved without the importance of partnership and collaboration. And that's why, in many ways, that's the other important dimension and theme of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's particularly stressed in goal number 17, which is all about saying that you can't achieve the 17 goals without the importance of building partnerships and collaborating with other institutions, with other organisations. So in other words, these goals can only be achieved with the whole involvement of all of civil society, whether you work in government, where you come from academia, where you come from business, where you come from a community organisation, or you're an ordinary citizen. Every person has a role to play, and it's important that people partner with others to be able to achieve these goals. And the last thing is the issue of prosperity, economic transformation, and as I said, lifting people out of poverty is an absolutely crucial theme of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so we need to be in a position to find ways of how we can finance and provide support to be able to make these goals achievable and make them a success. And so there are organisations who need to be able to have support, and there are countries who will be needing to have support to be able to achieve these 17 goals. The other aspect I'd like to mention is that with the Sustainable Development Goals, many people, even though the world, all 993 countries, including Australia, signed these goals, what was different in the Millennium Development Goals is that people thought of the Millennium Development Goals as just those goals for the developing countries, and it didn't involve us. Well, that's the big difference now with the Sustainable Development Goals, because all the countries in the world have signed on to these SDGs, which means Australia is also committed to achieve these goals. And many of you may or may not realise, but there was a ranking of Australia in terms of how it's performing in Sustainable Development Goals, and we rank about 20 in terms of the OECD countries. And apparently we're doing quite well with SDG goal related to health. We're doing very well in relation to SDG goal number 6, which is related to water, and also SDG goal 11, which is on sustainable cities. But with the other goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, Australia is not doing so well. So being 20th in the world and not perhaps ranking so well on the other goals, it shows you that we have a lot of work to do to be able to report and to show how much we were able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. But I've been really excited to hear that there's been some really wonderful initiatives by individuals, for example, And many of you might have heard there was an Australian woman from Victoria last year who was very, very committed to Sustainable Development Goal number 6 because she was very concerned about the water issue, the management availability of water in the world. And she went, and she was an ultra marathon runner. She ran equivalent to 40 marathons in 7 deserts, 7 continents, over 7 weeks. And her name is Monica Gooley, and she did this with the intention to draw attention around the world about the Sustainable Development Goal number 6. And this is an example of how individuals can actually make their own efforts to find solutions to the particular goals that they feel they can contribute to. And I put this to you as Australians here, what can you do in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals? Because as was mentioned earlier, we do have a plan, and I think this is where everyone has a part to play in contributing to this plan. So tonight, I'm pleased on behalf of UNAA to share the stage with the Hope Project founder, Kate Seselja. And with Kate, today we're also launching UNAA's National SDG program to promote and advance the SDGs in Australia. And for those of you who may not know, Kate will be speaking particularly about a very, very important issue, a global issue on mental health, which, as many of you know, particularly addresses goal number 3, in relation to health and well-being. And for many of you, I think also the issue of mental health cuts across the other 16 SDGs. So it's very timely, I think, that we look at a local initiative here in Canberra to see how local initiatives to be able to address the SDGs, particularly on an important issue like mental health, which not only is a global issue that affects 430 million people across the world, but also in Australia, the issue of mental health is an extremely huge national issue. So I'd really like to welcome Kate to be able to speak a little bit more about the Hope Project as one approach to dealing with the mental health issue. Thank you.
Hope stands for help other people every day, and that, I believe, is the end outcome. I struggled with a gambling addiction for over 12 years, and 5 years ago I almost took my life. And I'm a pretty positive person, and I thought if I was driven to that place of hopelessness, that I thought I was the problem, then how many others are driven to that place? When I managed to find my way out of that fog, I thought, boy, there was so much I learned about me that I could have and should have known proactively. That's why it is called Awake, because I'm not owned by anything. I am awake. I'm intentional in my life, and there is no reason why others can't be too. Yeah, it happened. It's part of me, but it doesn't own me. But I lived for 12 years covered in it, thinking this is who I am. I am only going to cause pain to my family, and I don't deserve to be here. And that's not okay. Sometimes people only have one chance to reach out. They only have one chance to put their hand up. So when I started to do this, people said to me, well, you were struggling with gambling. What does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with the UN? I think that, loneliness and isolation and human struggles impacts our society in devastating ways. We experience crime, violence, addiction, mental health struggles, suicide. We all know someone who is struggling or has struggled, yet our normal everyday vernacular does not reflect this. We talk and post on social media like nothing's wrong, and if something is reported, huge social stigma, shame, and other barriers of judgment make it unappealing for people to want to reach out and access help, let alone identify as having a struggle in the first place. We rely on systems in our everyday life, in business, in school, yet we don't really have a system for how to live, or not that one that's constructive around human error. Yes, we have laws and rules and policies, but I know firsthand what it feels like to be socially judged and feel like I'd made too many mistakes that I could never come back from. I thought that therefore I had disqualified myself from a normal life. Every day I encounter attitudes that are destructive to our societal well-being. There's the attitude of, well, that's not how it's done. The attitude of the deserving poor. The once an addict, always an addict mentality. And that struggle equals weakness. There needs to be a better way of dealing with life and the way we handle this topic, because our fast-paced world with stress piled so high, especially on young people, we need to be on the front foot and not be a reactive society. Now, I fell into hopelessness as a result of my struggle. I tried to get help and it didn't work. So many people are stuck there because they don't really know what they're trying to fix. If we only focus on the manifestation of the pain, we miss the core of the person and how they need to be restored and understood. Self-care, self-awareness and self-esteem are the issues we're ignoring and neglecting in normalising environments and attitudes harmful to our well-being. Overwhelm is the thief of passion and purpose. It creates apathy and it's the precursor to addiction and mental health struggles. Right now, while someone might come out and openly admit that they have an addiction or a mental struggle, they will say, I'm overwhelmed at work. They will say, I'm overwhelmed with the kids. They will say, I'm overwhelmed at school. We hear it, we just don't pay attention to it. Or we just enlist poor coping mechanisms to try and just keep existing. You've heard tonight why the SDGs were developed, and when I found out about them on my trip to the UN in New York, I was so moved to act in this space because I guess I've moved backwards from the source of pain to try and understand all sides and where gaps are and why people keep falling through them. Then I looked at what needed to be done to prevent these outcomes. Goal number 3 stood out to me. It's so vitally important to get this right, because if we don't help equip people better, the other goals simply won't matter, because no one cares where their stuff is made or how many people are dying if they're drowning in overwhelm. The Sustainable Development Goal website lists globally, suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 29. There is so much science pulled together to create Awake. It draws on neuroscience, behavioural science, psychology, biology, and of course hope. Awareness is so vital. Just last week, Forbes magazine wrote a quote saying that only 15% of people are self-aware. Personal and identity crisis is a huge source of human pain due to the lack of emotional and personal intelligence that was just simply missing from our education. Until this narrative shifts, stigma will remain because things left unsaid and undone don't go away. They just manifest in other ways. So why am I doing this? I learnt how to be comfortable with the discomfort of life. I had to, for my children. And it's incredibly liberating to be okay with being human. But I thought during my struggle that this is how I will be forever. And I simply couldn't endure it any longer. In treatment, I was met with stats about winning and losing and shown cycles of addiction. The stats meant nothing to me because I knew that I had won 10,000 in one press. So telling me I had a 1 in a million chance of winning a jackpot was just not effective. The whole cycle of addiction got me so confused that I felt that it was something I could never escape. That breeds hopelessness. I had, without realising, shifted my hope elsewhere. My hope rested in a win because I felt there was no hope to be had in the future that I had ruined. So talking about things that no one wants to talk about is interesting. It yields incredible results. I'm currently on iView at the moment on the ABC show You Can't Ask That, an episode on gambling addiction. People message me daily thanking me for my vulnerability. But as I said to 300 Year 7s last year, why is talking about what you're feeling an act of bravery? It's ridiculous and it has to change. So what I observed from my research, I attended conferences on addiction, and the tiny percentage of lived experience represented means it's largely led by hypothesis, ego, and people's own agendas. In Auckland, I connected with an incredible Maori woman who is making an impact in the lived experience space. And they have a beautiful saying, which I won't attempt, but it means, without us, it's nothing about us. Meaning, she pushed her way through to be heard in a space where she was made feel little and small because she came from the lived experience. But if you don't include people that have gone through it, then you don't yield new outcomes. The first conference I attended, I was mind blown that the things that they were talking about had little to no relevance on changing outcomes. And the conclusions that they came up with, I'd already instinctually come up with without a PhD. So I was just mind blown. We're denying ourselves vital knowledge on a daily basis by not sharing our stories, our struggles, without the opportunity to try and put words to what's going on inside us, either verbally or non-verbally, by talking or journaling. We aren't able to process or move forward from things that weigh us down. Normal life struggles that are designed to grow us become too much for us to bear. We are not meant to stay the same and stagnate, either in the routine of life or the oppression of recovery. We're meant to stay awake to life and help others along the way. Engagement with people's own unique gifts and what they are passionate about in the SDGs is exciting because it connects everyone globally with all the other nonsense, the boxes, the labels, the stigmas put to the side in the pursuit of no one gets left behind. Right now, people are getting left behind at a rate of 8 Australians a day taking their life. The intense need for connection is so great that people are connecting in all kinds of unhealthy things, groups, thoughts and outcomes to just try and feel normal, to feel connected. People are identifying as their struggle or diagnosis rather than being okay with being human. I believe the struggle or the diagnosis should be like a Snapchat message, there for just a moment to understand one's own needs or that of another and then gone, so that the person can get on with being human. Awake, proactively taught, can see many struggles avoided, self-corrected. It's just so liberating to get control of your mind and your body. Resilience, humility, compassion, the freedom of mind and self, the ability to see a person and not the outcome of their pain, all come from being awake. Looking at the big picture and what's going pear-shaped in our society, wanting different outcomes but still going about it the exact same way, is the very definition of insanity. Urgency is the reason we need to act and change our thinking on this subject and come at it from a different way. World Health last month urged developed countries to make mental health a top priority, as Patricia mentioned, because it is the epidemic that is going to take so many people out of our world globally. Talking about struggle with excitement as an opportunity for growth and personal learning should be how it's viewed, because it's simply the body's response to environments that are harmful to our well-being and that we're just trying to exist in. Saying to someone, "What's wrong with you?" is very different to responding with compassion, saying, "It's okay, you're just not awake at the moment and you're experiencing some area of blindness. Let me help you. Let's either get you to help self-correct or help seek effectively." Knowing this and going down the path of being personally, or feeling, when I was going down the path of feeling personally defective, it's just a dead end. Awake is a positive step in achieving what I believe is possible, where good health and well-being for all at all ages is achieved by 2030, so that no one gets left behind. I can't do it alone, and I need help to continue in all of its forms. If you can help the Hope Project, or would you like me to speak at your workplace, school or organisation, please reach out to me. But I urge you to pay attention to the goals and ask yourself what unique gift you have that you're being asked to contribute to humanity, and do that. Thank you for being here tonight.
Kate is elder, mum of 6, amazing. Every time I've spoken to Kate, I've gone away thinking, wow, this woman is incredible. And I've gone home and spoken about it at my dinner table, which I think is really exactly what you want. And you talk about overwhelm. I wonder how many in this room tonight are feeling a little bit of overwhelm. Do we want to just get to a state of whelm? I often think about that, Kate, but I said, oh, Kate came in again today, and she was talking about with a gambling addiction. No one really knows you have a gambling addiction. You look normal. You can continue your life as normal. You can pretty much cover it all up. Whereas with drug and alcohol, there are side effects. And I said, how would you know if I had a gambling addiction? And he said, well, I'd see the bank account, right? And I said, well, I'd probably work around that. We're smart. You'd be smart about it. And it really opened up that discussion. And I hope, and just seeing Kate's idea of the Hope Project and the Awake program, it really gets that discussion happening. And I also asked Kate, God, you must be a nightmare at parties, people around when the hors d'oeuvres are coming around, and normally people are talking about the weather or the nice dress, which you do have a great dress from I think with a Questacon print. Kate is asking the big questions, pretty much straight after the wasabi bees have been handed around. I think that's what the takeaway message for tonight is. Our final speaker for this evening is Diane Bray. Diane is the linker here. I think for the last 12 years she's run her own business as an executive coach and facilitator here in Canberra. She was, prior to this, she was a public trustee for the ACT and founded the Capital Region Community Foundation, known as the Greater Good, to raise awareness and funds for community projects such as the Hope Project. So I'd like you to welcome Diane to the stage. I think you're going to use the microphone, Diane. Those are rubbish. Response technologies.
I thought I might try and see if I can get mine to work. Is that working? Yeah. Brilliant.
Look at mine.
Look, thank you. Thank you, Kate, for inviting me to be here tonight. And thank you all for coming. It's an amazing group. And can I also thank the Ngunnawal people and pay respects to the elders past and present and any that are here with us today. Tonight we've heard from Graham, we've heard from Kate, and we've heard from Patricia about this wonderful initiative called the Hope Project and the Awake program. And it's a wonderful alliance with the United Nations Association Australia and the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular goal number 3, good health and wellbeing. Now, I bring grandchildren to this beautiful building regularly, school holidays, and I've seen the goals and we've talked about the goals, but I've never put them together with one program that can help, and in fact where we as an individual can start making a difference. So I'm awake to new ideas tonight myself. So I'm here to try and draw tonight together with goal number 3, Kate, and it starts with me. This partnership will be achieved. It's got at the moment a 12 months life. But it will be achieved with the support of the UNAA and Kate's excellent skills and her expertise in helping people start a conversation and hopefully continue a conversation, an open and honest conversation, with the hope and expectation that we can all start rebuilding strong, healthy, fruitful lives. And this is a wonderful partnership, and I'm proud to be invited here tonight to help everyone think about how they can help Kate through the Hope Project and to help others more broadly. As you've heard, my background is in philanthropy. I sort of fell in it through my role as public trustee, where I would see lawyers around Australia and in particular Canberra, and lawyers in the public trustee office writing wills for amazing people who said they wanted to leave something to charity. And as lawyers or will thing they would say is, who's your favourite charity? And so it would go Red Cross or Heart Foundation or Cancer Council. And then as that came to fruition, that would be sent off to head office, which is never Canberra. So we'd go to Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane, and Canberra would miss out. And my thinking was, that can't be what the donor wanted. So I thought there has to be a better way to encourage people to give where they live. So I say that a lot. But also, I think that falling into philanthropy is working always with people on the margins, and I've done that in every job that I've had in Canberra. And I've done it because I think they have stories to tell, that experiences and lived experiences that take them down good roads and bad roads. But if we don't have people there that actually say, you can make a difference, and helping them find a way to make a difference, to support recidivism, to actually look at where can we build partnerships where people can work better together. So when I met Kate many, many months ago, I was impressed with her forthrightness, her passion, and the journey she's taken to get her here today. And when I was trying to put some words together, the first word that comes into your head is brave, and brave is not the right word. It's passion, I think, that is the word that I would use for Kate. She has built her own, rebuilt her life, and is now helping others, as she said, through education in the workplace, schools and community, to proactively help people live sustainable lives and mentally healthy lives. When I talk to organisations about how can they make a difference, or individuals, I'll talk to anyone that wants to talk to me about philanthropy, I talk about three things: time, treasure and talent. I know Canberra's very generous. We keep far above our weight for our philanthropic intent, but mostly that's in volunteering. We earn a lot of money in Canberra, by and large, not all of us. I do what I do. I'm married to an accountant, and he absolutely pales when I say I don't bill. I just help. But anyway, that's just me. So, but we are very generous, and we do kick way above our weight. But I believe each and every one of us has the potential to be a philanthropist. And I think when we think philanthropists, we think of Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Chuck Feeney, an American that's given something like $600 million to Queensland hospitals, Vincent Fairfax Foundation, the Myer Foundation. They're all amazing individuals that have built organisations that actually make a difference around the world, and particularly in Australia. But I have a view that everyone here can be a philanthropist, and is probably already a philanthropist. For us, it just needs us to identify our time, our treasure and our talent, and getting involved. Each and every one of you here tonight has come to listen more about the goals, the 17 goals, the sustainable goals, and to hear about Kate and what Kate's going to do, and whether or not we have loved ones, we have family, or we have friends that we think might benefit from a conversation with someone like Kate. We're here for one of those reasons. I'd also like you to think how we can make the Hope Project and the Awake program vibrant but sustainable. To do this, it needs time, treasure and talent. Many of you will have one of them, some of you might have two of them, some of you might have all three. You might be able to support, you might know someone who might be able to assist, a business leader, a colleague, an individual who you hear around the workplace saying, oh, I'd just love to help somebody do something. The second question has to be, what do you think that might be? And if it's health or well-being or poverty or water or climate change, it's a great place to start with the UNAA. If it's mental health, have you heard of Kate Siswelger? Let's see if we can organise something. So today you can all go home with an idea in your head. I encourage you to talk to Kate and to Patricia and to Mike to see where you can make a difference to the sustainable goals and to those that we love in Canberra and beyond. As a not-for-profit organisations, all the funds that Kate will raise will go back into providing more programs. I'm hoping one day that she can apply for DGR status and become a recognised charity where you can actually help and get a tax deduction for helping her. And I found out today that the UNAA doesn't have its DGR status yet. Well, let's hope we get that sorted out very quickly. Government can't do everything. I think as a community we all know that gone are the days where government should fix this and government should fix that. I think as individuals that we know that we have an obligation to not only help each other, but to help those who really need it and don't know where to go for it. Nothing happens till somebody does something. Kate has done something amazing. So let's see how we can help her. Goal number 3, as you know, is one of the 17 goals to end poverty and protect the planet and ensure prosperity for all by 2030. It is a lofty goal, but tiny steps make big steps. As we've heard, we need to start in Canberra with goal number 3 to achieve all the other goals. Things you can easily do. Donate your time by becoming a volunteer. Donate your treasure by giving money. Donate your expertise, and it might be also lived experiences. With your support, you can help Kate. Start goal number 3. It starts with me. Meeting the sustainable goal for good health and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're running a little bit over time, but it's time now for our panel discussion, and hopefully I'm sure many of you have lots of questions. I'd like to invite, been speaking in the afternoon, invite our 3 speakers up to have a seat for the grilling. Didn't I tell you they were doing words exactly what was described? I'll be coming around with the microphone. If you'd like to hold up your hand if you have a question. Is there one up there that I can't see? I'd like to start. Was there a question? I didn't see a hand. I'm going to row with this. So I don't know what I'm row. Kate, you say it's the conversation that has to be started in the first place. Yes. How do you start that conversation for anyone going today to ask for that help or to ask if someone needs help?
People ask me all that all the time, and I think if you want to try and engage in that conversation, you have to lead with your own vulnerability, and that just creates this pathway for real connection, for honest conversation. And so, instead of saying to someone that you know is struggling, what's wrong with you, talk about what you've experienced, talk about, once I got through to somebody that I love through talking, about an experience I had with the person that I was helping, and not directing the conversation to that person at all, but saying, just talking about this whole other discussion, and then it was just non-threatening. because she could just absorb this information without having to, put herself out there and identify what was going on. But she just sat there on my every word and hearing about how I dealt with it with another person, and so that can be helpful.
Thank you so much. It's been such an insightful evening. I was really interested in what you were saying about people feeling overwhelmed, and that usually being a symptom of some underlying other issues and other things going on, particularly as an indication for addiction. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on our current lifestyle, the work-life imbalance, people not switching off from phones, workloads increasing, people feeling or finding it difficult to detach from paid work, and all of those issues which just feel so insurmountable and quite frankly overwhelming.
Yeah.
How do we even start to undo that, and how do we change the mindset that is just feels so wedded to that imbalance?
Definitely. It starts with self-care. I knew as a busy mum that no one was going to come along and go, oh, now is switch off time. Off you go. You've got all this time now for yourself. It just doesn't happen. So I made the conscious decision to wake up at 5 to have an hour to myself before anyone gets up in the house. And, to some people that's an extreme measure, but it was me showing up for me and carving out that time for myself to do whatever I wanted that was soul restoring. It wasn't, I got up and out so I could sit on my laptop and be overwhelmed. It was so I went to the gym or I went for a walk or I did something that made sense to me, that filled me back up. And when you do that on a daily basis, you create this reserve so that when the normal stress of life happens, you're not in a heightened emotional state. You're calm and you can see it for what it is and act intentionally instead of being so worked up that you're just reactive all the time to every situation. Does that make sense?
You spoke of journaling as well.
Yes.
As talking openly. The three of you employed, because you are three very busy women, how do the other two of you cope with overwhelm? Because I think it's a modern day problem, and it's a big part of what we need to address.
Definitely.
I think for me, I was much easier, I found working much easier to work out where I needed to be at any particular time than now doing what I do, which might be, I chair a number of not-for-profits and charities, but I also help a lot of people, and I go and do lots of talking, and I have diary malfunctions. It's just, I blame my age. It really is hard. But I think I get a lot of enjoyment out of what I do, and that takes a lot of that stress away. If I'm overwhelmed, it's because I've actually taken on too much, but my head tells me that it's actually going to be okay to move a client or move someone that wants to talk to me because I've just got too much in my day. And when you're not getting paid and you bring them up and say, I'm really sorry, I've just double booked, they're really great. And usually it's given them 5 minutes in their day as well. So I don't get overwhelmed. I think that comes with so-called retirement.
I would agree with what Diane and Kate said. That for me, definitely I believe that self-care is one of the most precious areas that for each of us we have to devote more time and energy to. And because it is self-care, it is about yourself. Each person has their own individual needs, and self-care is different for each person. I had accumulated quite a lot of stress after spending 20 years in war zones, and as you can imagine, I had seen my sort of share of violence and conflict and tragedy, and it had an enormous effect on me. I had to find my own ways of being able to deal with that level of stress, and a lot of it was being able to, as Kate said, being able to make time for yourself. And in my case, I found being able to connect back with nature was an important aspect, particularly for me. I grew up by the beach, coming from Sydney, and I had a very strong connection with the sea. And I lived in lots of countries that were landlocked, and I missed the sea terribly. So every time I had a chance to come back, and I was back in Australia, I'd spend most of my time by the sea, into the sea, spending time on my own, walking and swimming. And I think with all aspects of nature, whether it's in the forest or the trees or just going to your local park, I think that connection with nature helped me a lot. And I think it's looking for balance all the time in being able to have that ability to, as Kate said, it's renewing energy for yourself, to be able to have a sort of layer of, I call it resilience, to deal with the sorts of pressures that you get in life, so that you have that buffer to be able to handle the stresses in your day, and you can be able to have that coping strategy, survival strategies. And I was fortunate that the refugees that I was working with for most of my life were actually my main teachers of giving me that strength and resilience. So I learned more from the people I was helping than I could ever give to them. And I think that's one way in which we also can be able to help, and why it's so important to be able to gain strength from being able to help others, because you do get strength back. And I think that's one of the ways in which we can develop our self-care as well.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to Questacon. I must admit, every school holidays without fail, I have 6 or 10 grandchildren come and visit, and top of their list is Questacon. So I've been here every school holidays for the last 14 years. And I think it's wonderful in terms of that education that you've taken on the sustainable goals, because they are so important. And congratulations to all the panel. And Kate, I've got a question for you, because I think, you talked about suicide, and it is epidemic, and without even thinking, I can think of 5 people that I know. And I'm sure everyone here tonight can think of that. And I think sometimes they just miss that opportunity to pull out. And I'm just wondering, I'm not expressing that right, to choose another path. And I was just wondering, what was the trigger, or what was the step that sort of made you say, okay? And you did mention the children, and they are really important, obviously. And I think that sometimes people miss that. But I was just wondering, how you I guess went a long way down one track and then changed, and what enabled you to do that? And you talked about resilience. What was that in you that made you make that choice?
My family motto growing up was winners never quit and quitters never win. And that has served me well as far as resilience. Gambling, not so much. But that, I've always had that there's got to be another way attitude. And it frightened me being at that point. I was mentally, physically, emotionally overwhelmed to the point of I can't be here anymore. And I'm grateful for our 6th child, because she kept being here. That's the only reason why I'm still sitting on this stage, was I was pregnant with her. And I felt enormous frustration in that point of pain, just not wanting to be here anymore, but wanting to have hope, to wanting to be the mum that I wanted to be for my kids. And so going along to treatment the morning after I almost didn't come home, I wasn't hopeful. I thought I would just buy time until she was born. But thankfully, that counsellor saw me, and she asked me a question that really changed the way I saw myself. And she asked me to name 10 things that I liked about me. And up until that point, I had no conscious awareness that I had no self-esteem. It might have seemed obvious or sound obvious to somebody in the group of addiction, but that's the self-awareness that I'm talking about. People don't have that conscious thought of what's really going on. And so having to draw on compliments that people had paid me, that I'd actually let ricochet off, because I thought if you really knew me, you wouldn't say that. But it was recognising that other people could see me. I had just lost sight of myself. So that list was my ground zero, and I built from there.
As a 15-year-old going through high school, I hear of many problems at schools, and schools, although they may seem like they're doing very well, they're not in that right head state. I've heard in the last 2 days, one of my friends is doing self-harm. Another friend of mine was thinking about committing suicide. Schools are not in the right state of mind. And it's awful. And me being an active bystander, how would you talk or how would you give advice to someone who was going through those things, giving those thoughts at a younger age?
It is overwhelming. I know. I get messages all the time from mums concerned about their kids, male and female. I mean, struggle crosses all borders. It's help seeking is crucial, but trying to restore that that person's sense of self is what we have to try and tap into more effectively. I know that at school everyone tries to fit in or feel normal, but it's that uniqueness that everybody has that isn't even a thought process anymore. No one is okay with just being themselves. And I supported the Just Be revolution that's started just last month, that if we don't make it okay for people to be okay with themselves, then they're going to compare. And comparing just makes no sense, because no one is the same and we're unique by design. So I think that that's something that needs to be fostered more, is our uniqueness and how we're going to contribute that, looking forward, being part of the human family, not being stuck in our own stuff. And
Thank you for that question. Are you happy to stay, or we might have these last two questions and then we can take it outside? Is that all right?
Just staying on the age theme, the full title of Goal 3 is to ensure good health, well-being for all at all ages. So I have a look around the room and there's a common theme with the age of the members in the room. How do you think we best engage youth in the global goals, especially considering the comment was made earlier that most Australians have no idea what they are or what they're about. And I would also say there's a certain generation, probably the perpetrators of global degradation, so why should the youth listen to us?
I think we've got to start putting the young people in the driving seat by maybe perhaps, how can I say, putting them here where I'm sitting and being able to listen to them. So in a normal sort of gathering like this, we would definitely have a young person sitting here and for us to listen to them, because it's just as much about listening to their ideas and being able to also realise that they also have solutions to their issues, and we need to give them that space and to give them that voice. So yeah, it's taking the time to actually listen to them and giving them the space and the voice to be able to say, yes, I have an idea, and I think that's what to me is quite exciting about the Sustainable Development Goals, because it is very much about wanting to make sure that the youth are engaged in the environment. And Graham was speaking earlier, the focus is so much on wanting to make sure that the youth are participating. The whole thing of Sustainable Development Goals is to leave no one behind. That's a critical principle behind, and that we want to have a culture of inclusiveness to make sure that no one is left behind. And that's the reason why it's very important that the youth are engaged and they're in the driving seat, being able to be part of these goals, because it requires intergenerational effort. And I think that's an important aspect in which these goals, I think, for many of us, are really quite exciting, because we're wanting to ensure that there's participatory and inclusive approach to maximising voices to be able to get the success and achieve the goals. And I think also for me, I also feel that the young people have also got some absolutely creative, innovative ideas, which we really need to listen to, and it's about time that we do give them that platform. Yeah.
And I'd just like to also acknowledge Christine. She's come all the way from Western Australia tonight, and she's and her partner Liz are taking Awake into WA, into youth and schools, so that it can be trialled and implemented, because that's something I couldn't, it's really hard to break through. There's that attitude of, oh no, we've got this, that's all right, we've got policies for that. Oh yeah, there's a book, yeah, we've got that dealt with. And that's not what's really happening, and it's really, really hard sometimes to penetrate the bureaucracy. But thank you, Christine, for making the trek.
Hi, this question is particularly for Kate. You spoke about self-care as being the starting point for mental well-being. And I wanted to know two things. First of all, with the organizations that you've worked with, particularly public service or companies, do you think, or have you experienced that they're willing to adopt and implement the concepts of embracing people's uniqueness in work environments that are traditionally stoic and require their employees to conform to a particular standard and sort of oppress their individuality? Sorry. The other question to that is, and do you foresee that with goal number 3, the United Nations will perhaps maybe try to influence more policies around that to embrace uniqueness and also well-being of individuals?
Well, I can't answer the UN part of it, but I think that there's a reason why I haven't given a presentation in the public service yet, but many people that have worked in the public service have come to my workshops. So it's that, you know, there's still that mentality of leaving personal stuff at home. That's crazy. And yeah, so it's still lots of old attitudes that are very much alive and well. So it takes the body of people in those organisations to push for that change and to collectively be okay with being human. Because while there's pockets of shame and fear and stigma, then it has a place to live. But being open and honest and vulnerable is not a weakness. There's such freedom in it, and the depth of relationships that can be had is so vital. You know, I know you make fun of me being like the party pooper at cocktail parties, but I love just having real conversations with people that I'm not afraid. Like, I'm not thinking, oh, what are they thinking about me, or are they gonna? I don't care. I'm alright with who I am. So.
Can I just add to that one? With a previous hat on as an executive coach, and I think governments still and private organisations still have executive coaches, it was the little way of organisations trying to either change someone or bring someone back into the fold. You know, I would be asked to go and meet with someone who doesn't get on with everyone else in the office. And I would always say that I will meet with this person, but if they don't like me or they don't want to have a conversation with me, I'm not going to pursue it. It has to be an engaging conversation. And often, and I only had one where it just wasn't going to work out of hundreds, but often it was just sitting with a person who was across a coffee table and a cup of coffee that actually said, "You're listening to me." Nobody would listen. And what I learned from all of that, and some people would suddenly go, you know, I'm a mediator as well, so you give them little insights and little triggers that they would say, I think my organisation is toxic, or I really don't fit, they're quite right. And it's okay to go. And so, you know, if there's executive coaches here, I hope you're all asking the extra question about if you could be something different, would you? And if you want to be exactly who you are, can you be it here and comfortable? And if you can't, then how do I help you get where you want to go? And I don't think we do enough of that in our workplace. And often we don't do enough at home with our kids and our loved ones as well. G'day, great talk by all of you. Sorry, I forgot the name to the UN lady. So I work with young people. I work in about 5 schools around Canberra, and you know, I love it, but I see so many young people saying they're unworthy, they're unloved. How is the UN going to drive this program Awake? So I've had a lot to do with the Awake program as well. How are we going to drive that? Because education system, if anyone's into education, it's a hard thing to crack in. I have a hard time cracking in, and I work in that environment. How is the UN going to crack this mental health in young people? From, like, you know, suicide rates are getting higher and higher in young people. And I get the pleasure of getting paid just to sit there and hear young people's problems. And you're not made for junk, you're made for greatness. You're not made to be uncomfortable, you're made to be greatness. So how are you guys, and before the government can't pay for everything, unfortunately, but how is the UN going to drive this Awake program to making people feel aware of what's going on? What do they need? You know, so yeah, that's it.
Well, actually, United Nations Association of Australia, we've got different programs, and we have networks. We have a UN Youth, and that network of young people are actually already working in the area of sustainable development goals. And I think there's potential to be able to extend the work that they're doing to be able to address the specific issue. And it has to start. The UN is not a sort of an entity that can actually be the ones to solve the problem. It actually has to be solved by people. And so in this particular case, the United Nations Association of Australia, through its network of members, such as the UN Youth, we also have another network of UN young professionals. And in many ways, like other organisations that have got members of youth, young people, it really starts with them to be able to identify that this is an area that they want to work with, and then to be able to get the support from that network and the organisation to identify ways in which they can seek solutions to this issue. Because it's such the mental health issue is such a serious national issue for the country. As you said, particularly the rate of youth suicide, I think that it's not only going to be an issue that will require the UN and young people, but require all civil society. And that's one of the things that UN is trying to do. The United Nations Association of Australia wants to work with all different sectors of civil society to be able to work on this issue of mental health. And for the young people, it starts with them to be able to involve the collaboration of other, whether you come from business, whether you come from academic, whether you're a politician, whether you're an ordinary citizen. Everyone can have a role to play on this issue, but in many ways, it needs to be also starting with the young people to be able to say what they want. And that's why we need to get the people to actually start a conversation on this issue. And for many people, the whole issue of mental health many years ago was a taboo issue. I know even in my profession, working in the overseas aid humanitarian space, I couldn't talk about the difficulties and stresses I had in my field of work because it was a taboo topic. And so, let alone for young people now in this issue. So I think the thing is that just to be able to start having a conversation and to build what we call dialogue with different sectors of society about making people recognise how serious this issue is of mental health with young people, I think is a start. And that's how we can support each other, to be able to then work together, to be able to find a solution here in Australia. And the UN Sustainable Development Goals have actually got, there's 17 goals, but they've actually developed 169 targets that cover these 17 goals. And the goal number 3 has about 10, actually has the most targets of all the 17 goals. It's the actual goal number 3, health, that has something in the vicinity of almost 20 different targets to reach that goal 3. And one of the key targets of goal 3 is the actual issue of ensuring that there's ways in which we're going to be able to manage and prevent treat the issue of mental health in our society. So it's a key target that each country has committed to achieve to be able to reach goal number 3. And then with that target, you have indicators, which are qualitative measures to help people to find out how you can reach that target, how you can achieve the mental health, achieve well-being and mental health of the community. So in some ways, the UN has helped in by being able to give these targets and indicators to start people on a plan to be able to see how far they can go to reaching, the stage of solving the problem. So this is ways in which with the Sustainable Development Goals, it gives people a plan of how they can start looking at each problem with already some set targets and indicators. And this is something that wasn't in the Millennium Development Goals. And that's what makes the Sustainable Development Goals for many of us a lot more achievable, because we do think now that we've got a bit of a plan that gives a lot of people a bit of a start as to how they're going to deal with these enormous problems.
Okay, thank you. I know I'll probably wrap it up there, but I really love that question, and I think probably Kate has another answer for you. I'm intrigued as to what you do.
I work for the Catholic also creating a youth minister. So I work in the Dungarland area and I work in Yass as well. So
There you go. Wonderful.
so
I think we might take that outside. Thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you to our three fabulous panellists. Can you all give them a round of applause? And Kate. I think finally, Michael Smith, Major General of when National President of the United Nations of Australia, I think would like to say a few closing remarks.
I want to stand right here because I think this is the best episode of Charlie's Angels that I've ever been part of. So passion and commitment is a common theme amongst these three ladies, and we can all learn a great deal about it. I've had a distinct pleasure over the last 6 months of getting to know Kate, and she's just blown me away with her stories. Of course, I've known Patricia a lot longer, and let me tell you, she's understating some of her personal experiences overseas in conflict zones over many years, and she understands mental health issues very well too. We'll all take different messages out of tonight. Some of them very personal, and some of them more holistic. But there's a few common messages that will, I think, resonate with us all, and we can discuss them more outside too. One is that we need to do a lot more to educate people about the SDGs. We can't leave it to the government to report against the SDGs without civil society having a lot to say about it. Because the first three words of the UN Charter are, we the peoples. We the peoples. Signed up to by the 50 member states at the time of the horrors of World War II built on the bodies of 60 million people. We don't want to go back to those days. We can't go back to those days. So we the peoples have to keep our governments honest, and we have to assist our governments in moving forward. So that's the first message that we take out. We need to educate more people about the SDGs. When we hit 2030, will all these 17 goals have been achieved? Will we have everything hunky-dory? No, we won't. But one thing's for sure, if we don't work towards it, then we've got no hope of surviving as a planet, because there is no planet B. The second message that we take out is that, from tonight, is that in that goal 3, good health and well-being, mental health is a particular problem that affects many of us and goes under the radar still. And we're still not doing enough in workplaces, in schools, all through society. And it's amazing when you start talking to people, you will find almost every family has somebody affected in some way. And so we're bringing this out now. And Kate doesn't actually say that her program will fix everybody. She's not a clinical psychologist or doesn't claim to be. But what resonates about Kate's program is it helped her, and it's helped so many people since. So, Kate, UNAA is really pleased to partner with the HOPE project, and we really hope that this is a strong partnership that lasts a long time. So thank you for coming to us. Thank you. And the third message that comes out of tonight, really, I think, is what Diane said. We can all contribute time, treasure, or talent. In UNAA, we put in a lot of time because we're almost all volunteers. We've got heaps of talent with people doing lots of stuff. We're on the search for more treasure. And I make no bones about saying that. We need a good fundraising plan if we want to achieve what we want to achieve. So they're the three messages from my point of view. But I just want to say, I think these three ladies I really want to thank, and we've already acclaimed them, but actually another person with great passion that Patricia and I met when we started this quest of, well, what should UNAA be doing in the SDG field? We came very early in the proceedings to Questacon and met with Graham. And Graham, your passion, your drive, your leadership is inspiring, and I couldn't think of a better place for us to be tonight than here with you and your Questacon team. Congratulations to you. Of course, I want to thank Lish for doing this MC job tonight, because I thought I was going to have to do it. You're much better than I am, so thank you so much. It's wonderful. Thank you. I have to thank Matthew Cogwell, our Executive Director. Where are you hiding, Matthew? Right at the back, of course. And he's done so much work in so many different areas, come up from Melbourne for this, and Matthew, you are a treasure. Thank you very much. And then there's a team of volunteers. I won't name everybody. We've got UNAA volunteers. I know Kate's got all of her volunteers here tonight, and I know Questacon really uses volunteers. So I want to thank all of our volunteers who've made this possible tonight. Thank you very much. And finally, from we as the organisers, I suppose, I want to thank you, because without you, it would be pointless having this event at all. And a Monday night in Canberra when it's starting to get quite cold, and just at the start of a week when you've got a long week ahead, thank you so very much for coming. And please spread the message. Thank you.